Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Legendarium podcast. This is an episode all about Marvel on Disney+, the continuation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, now in the new cinema, which is your living room. Thank you, coronavirus. So, yeah, I am Craig, your host. Over there, he is Ryan. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey.
And on the couch over there, we've got Megan and Ken. Welcome, guys.
Thanks. It's glad to be here.
Yeah?
It gets us out of the house.
Well, that's...
Separate houses.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Separate houses.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Separate counties. Thank you.
So, yeah, before we get started on Marvel stuff, I'll just remind everybody, go to thelegendarium.com and check out the old episodes that we've got posted there. Yes, I've got a lot of catching up to do. I'll go do that. But you can also find links to the Discord server where you can come hang out, chat with us and the rest of the listenership. Gosh, we're closing in on 1,000 people on Discord, and it still remains a wonderful and happy part of the internet. I'm pleased to report. You can also, at thelegendarium.com, find a link to patreon.com/legendarium. Or so you can go directly there, or you can click on the link on our website. It'll take you to the Patreon page. Now, I was saying on a recent solo episode that I did that I'm really glad that we opted to go for a per episode version of Patreon. You can, you can set it up so that people tip you per month or per project.
Right.
And so we went per project, which is great because July sucked as far as us getting stuff out. And so patrons didn't have to pay for that. So I like that.
Yeah, that's considerate.
Takes a little bit of the pressure off.
Yeah.
when we have vacations and Jordan cons and all that. So anyway, I only mention that just so that the people out there will realize, hey, it's a buck in the tip jar for every episode that we make, not for just sitting on our fannies.
It's pay to play, not just pay.
Ryan, I do want to just point out that I said fannies on into the microphone.
I have grown up. I'm an adult now.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
False. That's false. Okay, so like I said, we're talking about the MCU on Disney+. So at this point, we have had 3 shows that have come out this year. We're in 2021. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They all blend together now.
Time is a flat circle. Mm-hmm. We've had WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Is it The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Just Falcon.
It's just Falcon.
Okay. And then Loki.
Just Loki.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the 3 we're going to be talking about today. Yes, spoilers will abound. So if you haven't seen these all the way through and you care about spoilers, then, heads up, go ahead, watch the rest of the shows. But we will take them in discrete chunks. So if you're not quite caught up on Loki, don't worry. We're going to save that one to the end of the episode. We'll get there later, and then we'll spoil the crap out of it. Fair?
Fair.
Question for clarity for myself and potential audience members. Is Black Widow in this discussion?
What do you guys think?
Well, it's not on... Well, I guess it is.
On Disney
It is
Plus.
on Disney
It is
Plus,
on Disney
yeah.
Plus, isn't it?
Oh.
Because that's how I watched it.
Yeah,
I'm glad I did.
I say yes.
I refuse to pay the $30, but I did see it. So
I did as well.
50. That's fine.
Like my
No,
question
it's-
would be, if we're asking, like, do we include it in this episode? Is it one that you'll be doing its own episode on? Because
No.
if not, we might as well discuss it.
No, to say that Black Widow is of little substance would be giving it a lot of credit. So
Wow.
yeah, I think we can go ahead and talk about it.
Judgment has been passed.
wow.
I'm not saying there's nothing to talk about. There's just
Yeah,
not
it's hard to
much.
have a bottle movie where you're like, we're dropping this in the middle of a history we're already familiar with, so we have to explain why we don't see all of these characters again later significantly.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, in answer to your question, we will go ahead and spoil Black Widow as well.
Okay.
I assume, if somebody's if they care to listen to an episode like this, they're probably more or less caught up.
I would assume so.
I would think so.
No one's listening to us to find out if they should watch these.
Right. Right. Okay. So good. That was a great question, Ryan. We should start though with WandaVision. Now, to give a little history, WandaVision, the pandemic screwed all this up. WandaVision was supposed to come out a while ago, in 2020 on Disney Plus, but it didn't. and it, it was pushed back. The release date got pushed back. In fact, all these things got kind of scrunched together. It's amazing how much 2021 content we're getting because of this. But I remember when it was announced, and the name was WandaVision, and I rolled my eyes. That is this, like, oh gosh, here we go. All right, we're being clever now, and and then they kind of started trickling out more and more information, and I was really excited for it. The 50s sitcom feel and all that stuff. Like, oh wow, this seems awfully creative, and it turns out it was super duper creative. And we'll talk more about why and how. But first, I think we should send it to Kenn for the recap.
Oh, I got recaps.
Kenn has recapped all of these.
Everything. So we're now 2 years from the events of Avengers Endgame, where we lost the bulk of Earth's mightiest heroes. But like Mr. Mouth himself once said, we keep moving forward. And like Mama used to say, just because we're setting the table doesn't mean we can't have a little fun. And what better way to lay the groundwork for Phase 4 than with the thinly veiled antagonists, even more transparent big twists, and lots of new characters that will certainly be important later. That is pretty much all of these shows on Disney+. But let's take them one by one. We start with WandaVision, where the show opens up with Wanda and Vision. See that? WandaVision. Moving to their new home in a New Jersey suburb. No wonder she immediately wants to radically change it. However, we quickly realize it's all a giant magically induced coping mechanism.
Spoken like somebody who's never actually been to the Jersey suburbs, right? It's very, very, very nice places, I'm sure.
I'm sure. All right. However, we quickly realize it's all a gigantic magically induced coping mechanism for Wanda to process her grief before she can truly move forward. But her massive display of power draws the attention of a 300-year-old witch who wants to claim Wanda's power for her own. It was Agatha all along. Can't get it out of your head. It also gives us...
I literally had gotten it out of my head.
Welcome back.
Then you invited Kenn.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you... Never mind.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
I know. It also gives us a couple new future superheroes in Monica Rambeau and the very creatively named White Vision. In the end, we get a mentally stabilized and very powerful Scarlet Witch on a spirit quest that might or might not end up well for the upcoming multiverse. We'll see her later. New hero count 3, or 5 if you believe that Wanda will find a way to more permanently resurrect her non-children, which of course she will because they were in the series. That's WandaVision.
Did you guys ever see the... there's a Red Letter Media video. It's about 4 or 5 minutes long, and it's titled... You can go look it up on YouTube. It's called No One's Ever Really Gone.
Yeah.
And they put it out when the Rise of Skywalker
after
trailer
the trailer
came out.
for Rise of Skywalker, yeah.
And it's just 4 minutes of them saying no one's ever really gone, cut over a montage of Star Wars deaths. And it's one of the funniest videos I've ever seen in my life. It is, I highly recommend it. No one's ever really gone. That is the mantra, right?
Yep. Oh,
the
they
MCU.
Can make a recap, or they can reprise that for the entire MCU now that there's a multiverse. Spoiler alert, there's a multiverse. It's not really,
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, so Ryan, thoughts and feelings on WandaVision?
Wasn't sure exactly what to expect, other than I knew this is the first step into a new direction for Phase 4. But I enjoyed the creative take of the TV sitcom pieces, and the more that they explain her reasoning for using that as a coping mechanism. Really just impressed. I loved the shooting of it and the homages to very specific TV series that were early on. And
later on, right? It wasn't just the early ones.
They
got to like through Malcolm in the Middle.
They got into the 2000s.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think all those and they were all very well done, and they're very on point. If you watched any of those shows, you recognize it immediately. As for moving the MCU forward or kind of introducing things, it did introduce some concepts, but it didn't really do anything concrete, in my opinion, of like to say like, oh yeah, this is where we're going, and that's fine. You're step one. We don't need to know we don't need to know the big bad. We don't need to know everything. We just need to know that something is going on and keep pointing us in the right direction.
Yeah.
WandaVision is appetizers. It really is. If this is a 3-course, I don't know why I'm on food in this whole analogy, with the table setting in it. I must not have, but it really, WandaVision is appetizers. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the main. It's not even the main course, but Loki is like the second main course and dessert. We'll get to that.
Okay, Megan, what about you? What do you think of WandaVision? Just broad strokes.
I think WandaVision, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I, like you, Ryan, just really enjoyed finding all of the homages and the love letters to these bygone eras and their style of storytelling and TV making, and kind of being able to pick out, oh, that's Malcolm in the Middle. Oh, that's Modern Family. Oh, just kind of fun little things like that. I also thought the music in it was brilliant, and it just made me so happy every time they came up with a new theme song.
And the mood and and the commercials, everything about it was just charming.
And it was nice to be able to spend some time with Wanda and Vision, because they kind of have been around on the fringes of the movies for a really long time. They were important, but we didn't really get to know them. So it was nice to be able to get to know them and see them as a couple and have a chance to care about them.
It was kind of like they were almost like the central romance of the MCU.
Yeah.
And that was never...
They were like the one happy couple.
Examined.
Yep. And we never got a chance to explore, and it's really kind of the opportunity for that. And the two actors, I mean, are really...
Elizabeth Olsen and
Paul Bettany. They're so fantastic. Both of them are so funny. They're so charming. They're great actors, both of them. And the chemistry that they have on screen, I mean... it's not much in terms of story related or where it's driving the universe forward, but I think there are so many production aspects or production elements of this show that I just loved.
Yeah.
Good to hear your thoughts, Megan.
I was, like I said earlier, when this thing was announced, I rolled my eyes at the name, and then I started to get a little more intrigued with the I guess the images that were coming out of them in their 1950s black and white stuff. And when the show actually came out, I was blown away. Because if there's one thing that the MCU generally, since 2008 is when Iron Man came out, so, 12 years plus, the one thing that got diluted more and more and more was creativity. They started to develop their formula for how the movies would go, how the arc of the MCU was going. And then this thing came along that was totally creative. Totally out of left field. Oh my gosh, I can't believe they're actually trying this thing, whatever it was that episode. This is amazing. And they give you these little hints, through the first, the second, the third episode, these little hints that there's something going on. There's a reason they're acting out these sitcoms, and we don't know what it is. And as the season progressed and we got further into the is it Sword now that's dealing with them? So it's not Shield anymore, it's Sword that's whatever. Okay. Because this is a comic book.
Sword is supposed to be the Shield for like outer space stuff.
There you go. So anyway, the more we drifted toward that storyline, the more I didn't care about the show. Does that make I've seen this for 12 years. I haven't seen that. Let's go back there. I want to see more of that
we've
thing
seen
that I haven't
the
seen.
government is treating us badly. Let's spend more time with, why is all of this happening in the way that it's happening?
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ryan, what do you think? Is that fair that I got a little bit fed up with the outside the town stuff?
I mean, yeah, that's completely understandable, and there is a formulaic sense to a lot of what's been created. But at the same time, I would say, this is a comic book movie. They're going to do what comic books do in these things. I understand, especially over a fair of 12 years going through and getting kind of similar pieces. I can understand, give me something different. I'm ready for something different. And when you get a taste of it, wanting that to continue. But ultimately, I mean, I don't have a problem with them revisiting those formulas.
Right. Well, let me ask you guys this question. I can't claim to be, the world's foremost connoisseur of sitcoms, but I have many favorite sitcoms, and so part of the pleasure of the Wanda side of WandaVision, the fake sitcom version, was the pleasure of going back and seeing some of these styles. These wonderful love letters to that style of TV. Do you guys are you sitcom people, or are you more drama people?
No, I'm a sitcom person. What I found was interesting is that they took all of this time to create the world. They had all the sets and all this wonderful casting and stuff. The storylines that they actually did in each of weren't actually really that interesting for the most part. Like, it was kind of the thinnest, barest, which, you know, like...
Isn't that the essence of a sitcom, though? I mean, go back and watch sitcoms from the 60s, from the 70s, from the 90s.
And it definitely highlighted how whenever something strange did happen, you know, they're in the middle of dinner in that first episode and odd things happen and everybody goes, wait, what? Why is it? Like, it was more uncomfortable in that way where you're like, wait, why did things just get serious? Because I don't know. The way that it came out, where it was just one episode at a time, you really had to trust Marvel to say something good is coming. It's not just going to be like some rehash of something we've already seen, which, you know, as a nostalgia person, that's great. But also it's kind of like, but Marvel, I always feel like, has just a tiny bit more substance to it. And the first couple of episodes is like, nothing really happened except for like that one weird moment. And so I feel like this was one where the audience had to put in a lot of trust. And I know a lot of people who said, yeah, I watched like the first 2 episodes and I just didn't get it. And I wasn't really interested in, like, well, you have to get to like episode 3 and 4 because that's when they start explaining what's going on. But if you're just not up for that, then you're not up for that. And you miss viewers.
Well,
Ryan, sitcom person?
Yes, I am. But we have the benefit of hindsight now.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm sitting in the writer's room, the planning room for this, your first few episodes are going to be that way because of the context in which you've put their creation. It is her coping mechanism.
Right.
She is not in a place to be giving you great in-depth sitcom pieces. It's part of the reason that, like, they started in the time frame that it did, when it was very simple. She's barely holding things together as it is.
Okay.
She's created this, like, giving her more time. She needs more complexity as time goes on because she's having to deal with these other realities sneaking in. And it's easier to do that in a 90s sitcom than in the 50s sitcom. So the slow progression of things, if you put it in the context of her mental breakdown, it makes sense. But as a viewer in the first few weeks, yeah, it's like, okay, you know, dinner party with the boss. It's very 50s-esque. Yeah, we get it. It fits in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really progressing. It's not a deep storyline or plot point.
Right.
But it fits inside of the context of her story, her long-term story. And that's, I can guarantee you with Marvel, because of the way they've structured everything, they are looking at the long-term story of these things and are willing to let you have a few episodes earlier or in the middle that are not quite as deep, or they're not going to flip everybody on their head, because they know in the long term these few dominoes need to go in this place and this is where they're going to be.
Sure.
And this is why I'm sorry, Megan. I'm really glad that the MCU is doing TV now, because I don't need everything to be novella length. That's basically what movies are, right? Translated into literature, these are novellas. And I want some time to breathe, some time to live with the characters a little bit. And TV allows you to do that. And it also allows, what I was talking about before, for the writers to be creative. Why are we doing this? Because it's fun. And because we have 8 episodes to work with to tell a pretty simple story.
Right.
Or, you know, whatever. It's a potentially simple story. So I like that it's on TV now, and I have that chance to breathe.
Well, to be fair, there have been Marvel TV shows on TV for quite a while.
True.
But these are the first ones that are planned to be a part of the MCU, where they're planning for that to bleed into the other movies and things that are coming out, as opposed to having a standalone.
The Netflix stuff.
Yeah, well, like the Netflix stuff, or like
Shield.
Agent Carter.
Yeah, and
those
Agent
kind
Carter.
of things that I loved, that I wish were canon, but, you know, don't really
They are canon.
have a lot to inform. They
now
are
everything
canon.
is canon.
Jarvis from Agent Carter totally shows up in Endgame, which makes me so happy.
They're canon. It's the direction of effect that's different.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, Marvel said when they were working with Netflix and working on those other ones, that the direction of effect would always be one directional. The movies would affect the TV series, but the TV series were working on a scale that would not affect the movies, other than maybe an Easter egg here and there. Now we've flipped that, where it says, no, we're going to include this in the storytelling modules, because what we're engaging on, what we're going to go into next, is going to require that much land to tell the story.
We've taken the TV series off of the ground level and we've put them into the bigger picture.
Does it bother you that those TV shows, I mean, obviously we have all paid for Disney Plus, but it's now behind this paywall where it's like, you have to get Disney Plus if you want to keep up with it. Whereas before, all it was the price of a movie ticket to be able to keep up with all of it.
No.
Not so much. Okay.
Doesn't bother me, mainly because there was no way I wasn't going to get Disney Plus anyway.
True. Ditto.
Yeah, I've got 2 kids, 5 and 8. Disney
Yeah.
Plus is a necessity at our house.
All I know is that there are more than one families using my Disney Plus account, which is legal. I looked up the terms of the agreement, so it's fine.
They give you 7 accounts. You can fill them however
well, then
you
I'm
want.
way under that.
Yeah, you can fill them however you want.
Okay, so should we consider... Is there more to say about WandaVision without getting into the other 2? Should we start talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Or is there anything else about this? Oh, you know what? Actually, I do have one more thing. The ending. We should talk about the ending of WandaVision. The twist. It was, what's her name all along?
Agatha.
It was Agatha all along. We should mention that, what's her name?
Catherine Hahn.
Catherine Hahn is a national treasure.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Who should, when she dies, her body should be donated to science. And by science, I mean the museum. The Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. No, she's fantastic. I love her. And she's just as good as she always is, if not better, in this role. So, yeah, she's lovely.
As soon as they cast her, I was like, well, she's the villain. She has to be the villain.
But the ending, so we should talk about the ending. The ending is she was the bad guy all along. She was the next door neighbor. Turns out she was the one orchestrating all of this. And then the final episode, it was the kind of culmination of the feeling that I was talking about before, where it was like, what happened to the creativity? I missed the creativity, because the final episode was, I'm a bad guy. Well, we're good guys. Let's fight. Laser beams, pew, pa-choo, pa-choo, pa-choo. And that was the end of this incredibly creative exercise. Was kind of the same thing that we'd seen through the MCU all the way through. Hey,
Yeah.
Fair, unfair? Ryan, you look contemplative.
Boiled down in that way of saying it, yeah, I understand that. That's not how it ended, though. They were shooting at each other. There was a fight sequence. You usually end these things on a big fight sequence, but it was a manipulation and mastery of her coming to understand her powers, and she's finally able to flip things, and it was projected. I'm not saying that it was a big twist or turn, surprise there, but she's turned her whole city into a place that only she can do magic at the very end by putting the runes in the X walls, and she takes this lesson that she's learned and flips it on and beats the bad guy using this trick. It's a way to showcase the character's development and growth, and also in a not really retconny way, but in a way to explain why Scarlet Witch isn't as powerful as or actually introduce the character of Scarlet Witch, because she's never been Scarlet Witch until this moment.
Right.
But it's a way to showcase her coming into her full power, because they've always talked in the past that, Scarlet Witch is strong enough. She could have just smashed Thanos herself. It's like, well, why didn't she then? Same thing with Captain Marvel. They're strong enough, they could do it themselves. Well, now we're realizing now, because of this, that she's not Scarlet Witch yet. She has the powers, but this is what's finally bringing her into her full power, her full ability. And that's what that finale, it's not about the punch, beat the bad guy. It's about her finally coming to grips, being willing to let go of and deal with the pain, and that allows her to open up and fully accept her role as Scarlet Witch.
So totally fair. But it doesn't answer my complaint, because I feel like she could learn those lessons. There are other ways to do that without the pa-choo, punch finale. So, your point is absolutely well taken, but I guess for something that was so creative, it was a very bland way to get her there.
Okay.
All right. So there you go.
But at the end, she is reaching her resolution, so it's kind of just the resolution of everything else. I feel like the creative ending there is her getting to say goodbye to Vision and her kids, and then she goes off on her own to actually learn how to be the Scarlet Witch and learn how to get her kids back.
To the secret cabin in Montana that all superheroes go
Secret
to.
Exactly. To the Unabomber cabin.
I will
It's a
say,
good cabin.
while I was disappointed by the lack of creativity, I did find the emotional beats in the finale pretty effective. So, I like that moment.
I also just felt a lot of joy during WandaVision that they brought back a couple of characters I really liked, like Agent Wu.
Yeah.
Makes me so happy.
Darcy.
And Darcy.
Oh, okay. Can we talk about Darcy real quick for a
Sure.
second?
Do you hate her?
No, not at all. I'm just, So I was telling these guys before we started recording, I've been going back through the MCU. And so she shows up, of course, in the first Thor movie. This is 2009, maybe, something like that. She shows up in Thor. She's the intern to the astrophysicist, Natalie Portman's character, whatever,
Jane Foster.
Jane Foster. So Darcy is the intern, and she was the only applicant. And what was it? She's a political science major. She's not even a quote unquote scientist. She does political science, right? And that's the joke, is that she has no idea what's going on around her. This is totally over her head, whatever. And now
12 years later,
she's beyond a genius. Like, Jane Foster can eat her dust, right? This woman knows everything about everything, and is the one who comes up with all the theories. Like, oh, here's what I think is going on. I didn't even remember. Listen, I've been watching the movies since then, and so it had been years since I'd seen the character of Darcy. But even I remembered, like, that's not right. That's not that character. Was that not weird to you guys? Or Ryan, you're just shrugging like, who cares? It's a comic book movie. I love it.
I'm along for the ride,
and I'm happy.
No, it's there's time has passed. The people that she's been with, the experiences she's gone through. I'm okay with her having new knowledge at this point.
Okay, that's
like.
Yeah, I mean, in the MCU, it's what, 15 years later? I don't know. It's a long time.
But there's a difference between I read a book to I'm frickin' Einstein.
Well, there's a difference also between being like, I read a book and I went on the Rosen Bridge, the
Einstein Rosen Bridge.
Yeah, I've been on there. I've
the
been
Einstein
around
Rainbow Bridge.
I've done all these things, like, and I don't remember her. I would need to go back and rewatch WandaVision, but I don't remember her like really shouting out a ton of theories or anything other than to say she found the frequency. She spotted something, this is weird, and she found the frequency, brought it into the TV, and then just was watching it along going, okay, this, and then just kind of pieced it together from there. It was a natural progression. I don't have a problem with it.
I get that she's a character. She's a named character, and all of the sword scientists are not. But they're the ones who would discover the frequency. She's not the one who'd be like, well, let me put the frequency is this one. I know exactly what's going on. Come on. Sorry, that was dumb.
I think I enjoy the fact that you put way more thought into this than anybody I know combined.
Certainly more than that writer's room.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm starting to get Ryan's blood pressure rising, so we should probably...
I don't think you are. He looks pretty chill.
I
always know. I always know
because out of the corner of my eye, I can start to see him fidgeting in his chair a little bit.
I'm adjusting for a camera over here. I learned a lesson. I'll say I learned this like a month ago or something, and it's adjusted my perspective. And of course, it came from the Star Wars universe,
obviously,
naturally.
As we were watching, I think I was watching Bad Batch, something like that. This is mythology. Star Wars is mythology. Marvel is mythology. We don't get 50 individual stories. We get Hercules every time. Like, you get these characters. And so that's why the worlds feel small. That's why things that is because it's mythology. That's how it works. So that's soapbox off to the side for future use.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, let's talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because we've been going for a hot minute already just on WandaVision.
That's because it was so good.
It was. Okay, maybe that'll be my last thought is I did enjoy it. I have my complaints, and I often air those on the podcast because that's more fun. But I did enjoy it. I had a good time with it.
It's just an enjoyable series.
Yeah. All right, Ken, hit us up with Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
All right, so while Wanda goes through Mystic Grief Counseling, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is more about career advice. Sam is still tracking down that bit-rate bad guy while avoiding taking up the big promotion literally handed to him by everybody's favorite Boy Scout. So when a bunch of super serumed up refugees with an axe to grind and a point start making trouble, the government hands the job to cut-rate poor man's unstable Steve Rogers, who immediately makes them regret it by killing somebody. He'll land on his feet, though, because Lane Bennis has got a sweet, sweet job offer for him, and on the side... over there, Sam talks Steve's other best buddy into putting a hold on his brooding to help them track down the bad guys by breaking a criminal mastermind out of max security prison, because that makes sense. And with the help of a former agent turned criminal mastermind, that actually does make sense. We'll get into that. But not Steve's failure gives Sam a second shot at becoming the man, which he does with a fancy new shield and a fancy new suit. Also, Bucky's in this show. They really should have called it Falcon and the Winter Soldier. All right.
They did.
Yeah, but it's like...
He has Falcon in all caps.
Falcon and the Afterthought.
And the
That's
Winter
what they should have
Soldier
called
is
it.
all in lowercase.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, new hero count at least 4.
Who are our new heroes?
Well, we got U.S. agent. That's what he's going to be called.
Anti-hero.
And anti-hero. Hero is a loose term for
are you
somebody
talking
who's
about the
superpowered.
guy who replaced Steve?
Yes,
Okay.
and I can't ever remember. John something is his name. I can't.
Walker.
John
Great-
Walker. Thank you.
Great actor.
Oh yeah, I keep wanting to call him Wyatt Russell
it's
because he's
Kurt
Kurt
Russell's
Russell's son.
Right.
And he is fantastic. John Walker, who becomes an anti-hero in the comic books too. Anyway, Zemo, who is now fresh out of prison and on the run someplace. There were 2 others. Dang it. Oh, Batroc the Leaper, who was the guy who Sam was tracking down in the first scene of the first episode. He was also in Captain America.
Right, he fights him
Winter
on
Soldier.
the
He fights him on the boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Batroc the Leaper is just some kind of
Wait, is that the French guy?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
I thought he was killed at the end.
Mm-mm.
I watched it again yesterday. Who got killed? It doesn't matter. Continue.
Yeah. And Sharon Carter is back. So
Yeah.
and she's got an axe to grind and nefarious intentions.
Excuse me while I snore.
So, okay, that's a great segue. Thank you, Megan. I have a confession to make.
Oh, good.
I never finished it.
Really?
Yeah, no. I got, I think, halfway through the 3rd episode, maybe. I'm trying to remember back. Probably about as far as I got before. It's not like I threw my hands up in disgust or whatever. I just got bored.
Yeah.
It's so boring.
This is the show
It's
that I had the
so
most
boring.
hope for. I love Captain America, Falcon, these kind of characters that are like basically still human, but kind of to an advanced degree and who fight more on that ground level. These are my kind of superheroes. These are the guys I love. Falcon, one of my favorites, just because he's a guy who flies and fights crime. Who doesn't love that?
Well, so-
Wait, so you
okay.
gave up before the Dora Milaje showed up?
I don't know what that means. So
the
what I'm
fighters
talking,
from Black Panther,
yeah, sure,
the women soldiers.
probably.
So good.
I might have slept through it. I don't know. But Ken, earlier in the episode, you were saying you were comparing these to courses, and this is
Right.
like the main course of the 3 things we're talking about. And
Yeah.
I think that fits really well because this is the most MCU thing
Yes.
that we're talking about.
Yeah.
It felt like
And
a
I-
Captain America movie, and Captain America is not really a humorous person, and so it just kind of was like.
But his movies,
it's very actiony.
but
and
his
it's very,
movies are great.
His movies
it's
are
very
the best
political,
movies
it's
of
very
the MCU.
actiony.
But that's the thing is it kind of turns political and a little bit preachy and not
Well, so okay, and
super
let's,
over the top.
let's
But
talk about that.
it does get slow and snory.
Let's talk about that. It was okay, just in terms of it being MCU boring or uncreative. Let's say it did get preachy and political, but the problem with it is, and yes, we are going to acknowledge the existence of politics here. So trigger warning, I guess. It got preachy and political in a way that was 30, 40 years too late. Like it was.
Yeah.
No.
Yes and no.
Are you talking about the whole Captain America can't be a black man thing?
No, well, it was more like the thing I'm thinking of most is
The
the
old super
scene,
soldier.
No, the scene in the bank
Oh.
where Falcon can't get a loan.
But the guy wants his autograph.
Right? Yeah, just some weird stuff where it's like, yeah, this would have been relevant a generation or 2 ago, but
Disagree. Hard disagree.
okay, go for it.
It is still something that we deal with today. Like, not me, obviously.
Sure.
Yes. We're talking.
I'm talking about. I'm not talking about what does or doesn't happen in the real world. I'm talking about like as a piece of pop culture. This would have fit much better
No.
generation or 2 ago.
This is I think my biggest issue with Falcon and Winter Soldier is that in hopefully 20, 30 years from now, people are going to look back and go, they really needed that. That's really the story that, like, it's very much rooted in our time right now and the stories and the discussions going on right now. It is with Black Lives Matter movement, with all these things going on. This is a story that is being told to the audience that is listening right now based on the world around us, the environment around us. And it becomes even more apparent as you get in further into the story and they introduce the black super soldier that was hidden away because they wanted Steve Rogers to be
Right.
the front.
Yeah, that guy was interesting.
Like,
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so we have this other story here, and it's like, this is, and he has this whole discussion with Sam. It is this series was tough to watch. Yes, it was dull. It had some dull moments in there. Part of that being we're not connecting to the storylines in here. They're not storylines that we're used to. We don't have the same connection to them. It's
Right.
This is all my personal thing. Like, I'm not going to say that this is...
Bring back that soapbox. Where'd it go?
Yeah, right here. These storylines, I felt similar to this as I did back when they first released Luke Cage a while ago. I watched the first couple episodes and went, I'm not the audience for this, and never finished it. I started Falcon Winter Soldier, and went, maybe I'm not the audience for this one. That's okay. Continue to watch through to get story pieces and realize these are storylines and things that I feel like I need to hear and be aware of, and I can judge based on my own understanding from my own relationships with people of color and other things. How real is this? How real is this now? How prevalent is this? How much does this resonate right now? And why does this matter? And so that's why, like, you know, the initial few episodes, I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. But pushing through, trying to understand, trying to be empathetic to the stories and trying to understand why it might be something that we need to hear now, or why it might be a story that needs to be told now. Mm-hmm. And that to me is why I think this series ultimately for me, it's not one that I'm like really excited to run back in and watch again or anything like that. I wasn't drawn into that, but I do think that it's going to have longevity in the stories being told until that story doesn't need to be told anymore.
Right. One of my favorite things that I enjoyed about this series was that was the exploration of a man does not need to have this super serum to be like an amazing fighter, a good man, to be able to protect the people around him, because Sam never takes the serum.
Yeah.
And then you have John Walker, and he takes the serum, and immediately after, he totally gets his butt kicked by a whole bunch of female soldiers. And his comment at the end of it is, they weren't even super soldiers. It's like, yeah, other people are just really good at their jobs and don't have to rely on something like that. And it's one of the things I like about Sam. It's one of the things I like about Hawkeye and Black Widow. They're not superheroes. They've trained really hard. They're just really good at what they do.
They're
and
just
I kind
heroes
of
that are super.
Yeah, they're super awesome.
Yeah.
But I like having that in my mind where I'm like, obviously I am not one of those guys. I do not have those skills, but I can work really hard at things, and I can be like,
it's why everybody
I can
loves
grow
Batman.
as a human. Yeah. He's a normal guy with an awesome suit and a lot of money.
Other than the money, you can usually connect with the human and superhero and see yourself in it. You can see yourself in Black Widow, in Hawkeye. You can see elements of yourself in a Steve Rogers, but you're missing the super serum piece. And I did love that one of the main questions that was asked throughout the series was, if you could take the serum, would you? And realizing that, because that was the question back in Captain America, the First Avenger, it wasn't asked that way, but it was, we need to find someone who we can put this in because it's going to amplify who they are, and it has to be a good man. And so
good becomes great, bad becomes worse.
Yeah, it's just an amplifier. That's all it is. And so that's why I think the John Walker storyline, when you parallel it to Steve Rogers was Captain America and is everything that he was because of the man he was before the super soldier serum, and then he became, the amazing man, America's ass, all those things.
Yeah, because he knew what it was like to be weak, and he was still a good man, and he still fought for everyone, and the things that was right. He could do it all day.
And I think that's going to be one of the things if they decide to follow the John Walker story further down, like, because he's being pulled into what I feel like is going to be the counter Avengers, It's
going to be the anti-hero Avengers.
It's going to be the Suicide Squad.
The
Marvel
Marauders, or not the Marauders, the Thunderbolts, or Dark Avengers, or whatever they call them. But yeah, they're already setting it up. They've got their Dark Hero Captain America. They've got their Dark Hero Black Widow. They've got they're going to have one for each of them.
A young Avengers being led by a very different type of Nick Fury. Type setup. But I think there's a lot of potential exploration for him in dealing with that. I'm not Steve. You already dealt with it a little bit here. I'm not Steve. Am I a good person? When he gets put into positions because his military service, everything else that he was doing, he was a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the same pure that Steve was.
We're talking about Sam, or are we talking about John Walker?
John Walker specifically, because they make a very big point early on in the series to talk about his military service,
Right.
what he's able to do, and he's not glorifying in the, a lot of times in those scenarios, it's, we've got a decorated war hero, and he loves death, he loves killing things, that's how you get Punisher and people like that.
Right.
And he's not that guy. No, he was a modern day Steve Rogers, but he's not as pure as Steve is in intention and purpose.
Right.
Is could we have a modern day Steve Rogers, or is that something that died generations ago? What do you think?
A modern day Steve Rogers, unfortunately, I feel like right now would be he would not be allowed to exist, or would be constantly beaten down for the idea of being. We live in a time when there's a really big push for understanding the gray area in life, and Steve is very much a
black and white.
black and white type understanding of good and evil and doing the right thing. And unfortunately, well, I'm not going to say unfortunately.
I will.
In our current setup, that mentality is not appreciated quite the same way that it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am with you. I'm with you on that. We reward cynicism in our culture, and and I think it's always good to be analytical, to constantly be reconsidering not just what you believe, but why you believe what you believe, and all those things. Like, that's all great, but for whatever reason, and I'm sure there are many, many reasons, we've taken that and drifted onto the path of cynicism as a culture, and we ridicule those who say there is such a thing as good and there is such a thing as evil, and that's too bad. So yeah, it'd be very difficult, I think, to find a legit Steve Rogers type for like that's why they had to make the first Captain America movie in freaking World War II, because you couldn't have that.
Yeah.
Believably.
Steve Rogers, the possibility of a Steve Rogers died when Twitter was invented. So.
Exactly.
Oh, geez.
Exactly.
Well, if you take kind of a flip side of a coin, I'm taking it in a different direction. Are you okay with that, Ken?
Do what you want.
Okay.
Do whatever.
Okay. 'Cause you sound like you had something you wanted to say, but I'm going to say this instead.
Yeah, go.
It's interesting looking at Zemo because he is very much a gray character. And I enjoyed watching Sam and Bucky trying to deal with him. At the same time, Zemo's like, I am totally in charge right now. I know what to do. Here's some Turkish delight, children.
That's exactly what he was like.
Right? It's so creepy.
Very
but
Narnia.
he definitely was
that's all I
helping the
heard.
good guys, but he also had his own agenda, which he absolutely followed every single chance that he got, which was really fun to watch. I would like more Zemo and less Sharon Carter, because I thought she was super dull.
I would actually agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've never really liked Sharon Carter.
No.
I mean, she's fine. The actress is fine and everything.
I
but
like her in other things.
Yeah, but I just didn't like her in that. You will see more Zemo. Guarantee it.
Yeah.
I bet he ends up on like some shadowy Dark Avengers team too.
Well, Ryan, any more thoughts on Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I'm pleased with the series. It does what I'm not a great historian of Captain America comics, but Captain America has always been a comic that has addressed difficult sociopolitical issues, and I'm glad that they didn't shy away from it here. That they took a stance on things, and I appreciate that they did that within the story of Captain America, and I'm interested to see going forward what that's going to look like. I'm great with Sam being Captain America. I know both in the comics, both Sam and Bucky had been Captain America, and I was wondering if they were going to play in this series that one of them was going to try and claim the shield and who was going to get it. And I'm glad that they didn't play that art.
Do a versus.
I like the fact that it was pretty clear that it was Sam, and I love Sam as Captain America. It's one of the new modern storylines that from the Marvel comics that I liked is Captain Falcon. I just think that he's so cool, and Sam is a great character, great noble character.
Yeah,
I'm totally down with that. Bucky needs a new name. Winter Soldier is he needs to be White Wolf or something. He's got to be something other than Winter Soldier.
Well, they've tossed out a couple of times other things that like what he was called in Wakanda and stuff like that, where we can do that, but I'm sorry, merchandising and branding just makes it a lot easier to do Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it's just old.
So from what you guys are saying, especially you, Ryan, it sounds like there's probably some interesting stuff in here for me to go back and try to watch again. It sounds like the the subtext, and I mean, let's be honest, this is a Disney show. It's the text.
Yeah.
It might be more interesting than what was going on in WandaVision, but the packaging was so bland that I couldn't put it. I couldn't put it away. Like I couldn't eat it. To use Kenn's analogy, going back to the food, I couldn't eat it. It was so bland, even though there might have been some interesting things going on. On the other hand, you've got WandaVision, where there's very little interesting going on story-wise. Not nothing, but little. But the packaging was so delightful that I just kept consuming it. Now we go to Loki, which is this is our dessert course, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's kind of
it's like 3 desserts.
But
it's so
but
good.
now we're combining the two things. There's a lot of story. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in a very interesting and well put together package. But we're entering, now that we're talking about Loki, this is where I texted Ryan, like after the first episode, I texted Ryan and said, we are now in the LOL nothing matters phase of the MCU. And I hate it. I hate that. But I liked the show, like in a vacuum. Anyway, let's do a recap, and then we'll get into my
Remember,
goods and bads. Yeah.
Remember how much I love time travel? Anyway.
So sorry, my friend.
All right, to borrow a line from Peter Quill, if Wanda is the something bad and Sam is the something good, Loki's the bit of both. Following pre-redemption, pre-neck-snapped Loki, who manages to escape his fate by way of stolen Space Stone in Avengers Endgame, Loki's immediately offered both redemption and a job by the Time Variance Authority, the shadowy organization that's self-charged with protecting the one true timeline and purging all the rest. They need his help to track down a Loki variant who's causing all sorts of mayhem. Weird sexual tension ensues. Shocker, they discover that the TVA is not the kind of benevolent organization that it seems, and all 3 alien lizard men calling the shots are just a smokescreen for this new big bad of Phase 4. He gives Loki and Girl Loki a choice. Take his place and preserve the sacred timeline, or kill him and blow it all the heck up. Well, you know the rest. New hero count. Take your pick. I mean, there's no number at this point. The only one that really matters is the total non-surprise introduction of Kang the Conqueror. He's going to be the bad guy of all of Phase 4, and it was kind of foregone a long time ago. So that's that. 9 to 12 episodes of a plot stretched into 21 episodes of 3 shows. That's what you get. Okay. Actually, I liked it a lot. I like these condensed 6 to 9 episode seasons, as opposed to like the 24 stretched out. You know, how are we going to fill these episodes one at a time? These condensed seasons are fantastic.
Tell your story and get out. Yep.
Yeah, longer than a movie, so you get more depth. Shorter than a season, so you don't have all this filler crap. Oh yeah, this is the way to do it.
So yeah, this one was kind of the opposite of WandaVision for me, where I started out so excited and kind of went downhill, and by the end I was like, meh, okay, fine, whatever. This one, I was pretty angry at it in the first episode, and then by the end of it, I was like, this is wonderful, and I love it. I love Loki. I love this show on its own, out of context. The problem is, in that first episode, the problem for me in the first episode is the moment when somebody at the TVA, which, by the way, I cannot hear without hearing Tennessee Valley Authority.
Yep.
That's
I
all
start
I can
singing
think
the
of.
song,
So, whatever. I just have New Deal history on my mind, I guess. Whatever. So that's all I can hear when I hear TVA. But somebody at the TVA opens up his desk drawer, and it's just full of Infinity Stones.
Right.
And what's his name? Owen Wilson is like, oh,
Mobius.
Some of the guys use them as paperweights.
Yeah.
And I just...
Tom Hiddleston, Loki's face right there.
It's
heartbreaking.
For a guy who still is in the mindset of all I want is an Infinity Stone so I can rule the world. And there they are. Just take one.
His whole life's work is just crushed.
I don't care about Loki's reaction to it because I had my own reaction to it, which was, wait a minute. 12 years I invested in this. 12 years of my life I invested in caring about the pursuit of these Infinity Stones and how much power they give people, and it's the ultimate power in the universe. But it's like Qui-Gon Jinn says, right? There's always a bigger fish. Mm-hmm. And this was just so LOL, nothing mattered. Nothing you watched for the last 12 years matters because these things are paperweights, and we can go and yank anybody out of any timeline at any moment for any reason, and nothing matters. Ryan, respond.
Oh, fine. You respond.
Your argument of we can pull someone out of any timeline at any point and nothing matters, I can agree with that because that's the whole premise of what the villain did. He literally just condensed all timelines, everything into just a single controlled universe. As for none of it mattering, I disagree with that because it is inside this bubble that they don't matter. You take one of those Infinity Stones, Loki pockets one of those, walks off, goes through the door into a world, and all of a sudden those Infinity Stones matter.
No, right up until he does that, and then they just go and fetch him and bring him back into the TVA bubble.
Yep,
so,
him,
LOL, nothing matters.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, how does this not... and I'm being serious here. How does this not bother you? How is it that you can spend so much time invested in a story and then somebody comes along and writes the continuation of that story and says everything that came before here, it's like, it was all ants and we're now dealing with elephants. Whatever analogy you want to, a better analogy you want to use, that's fine. But nothing mattered. And now this matters. Because these are the ultimate powers in the universe, right up until we've disposed of them and find out that they were just the pawns of something else, right? Because that's inevitable. That's what will happen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, back to my question. How does this not bother you?
Because I don't view it like that. I don't see it as the diminishment of prior, of saying that those things didn't matter or anything. I'm looking at it in a new context. Like I said, we're inside of this context, inside with the TVA, like I said, with the Infinity Stones, all these things, there is a new context through which to look at it. But in a matter of a few episodes, guess what? We've just broken all that anyway. Now the Infinity Stones are going to matter again. They're like, I don't feel like I don't feel like they've destroyed all the work prior by simply saying, if you look at it through this lens here, that it's not what you originally saw. That's really, I really don't know how better. I need more time to think about it, I guess.
That's fine. I just, as a viewer, I felt like somebody was clumsily trying to pull the rug out from under me, but really all it did was make me hit my head on the floor and piss me off. I don't know. Megan, what do you think?
Oh, no. I had thoughts, and then I really started focusing on what Ryan was saying, and my thoughts are gone.
He'll do that to you.
No, it's nice. I had a hard time getting into Loki. I think it was about halfway through the third, I don't know. The first 2 episodes, I was just kind of bored. And I think for me, it doesn't bother me, this big change, because they have this discussion a little bit in Endgame where, with the
Megan's brain has gone on
now
a walkabout.
I can't think of her name, with the Tilda Swinton character, and she's talking with she's talking with Hulk about this is what happens if you take the Infinity Stone. So this was not necessarily new information. This was just an illustration of, and now we're actually going to remove the Infinity Stones, and we're going to make this multiverse, and we're actually going to see what happens and what a mess this is. And I'm just really excited to see how they eventually put it all back together, or don't, but what comes to all of these characters, where we had in that first episode where Loki sees what happened to the Loki in the true timeline. They see that, he made he let his mom died right after he told her that, I don't care about you, which was a lie. And then he sees that he and Thor make peace with each other, and that the very last thing the recording doesn't wink out when Loki dies. It's when Thor picks up the body and is mourning dead Loki. And Loki knows how much his brother loved him, and is like, oh, we had this. And he kind of, because one of the things I struggled with in this series was I felt like this is the Loki right after the Battle of New York. I had a hard time believing that he would change his mindset and be like, I want to conquer everything, to no, we should totally listen to this girl Loki and we should trust her. Because when President Loki showed up eventually, I was like, that's the Loki I kind of expected and I like in this. And so I struggled with the character development, but I'm also really curious to see where it all goes from here, which is probably what they meant to do. I don't know.
I did find that interesting. This is a guy who's been alive for like 1,500 years, and it took about 35 seconds for him to say, I'm a good person now because I saw myself die. And nothing. Like we've been conditioned for the last 10 years that nothing that Loki says you can take at face value. So I still am of the opinion that this Loki isn't truly a changed man, and he wants what's good for the good of the universe. But now all of a sudden we have a gazillion universes, and so maybe this one Loki does actually say that and go, "Oh crap, this is a bigger deal."
I will say
So
with
we'll
the
see,
with the Loki arc,
Yeah.
the face turn, we might say, for all the wrestling fans
the heel
out there.
face turn, yeah.
His face turn was not out of nowhere, and
Right.
I say this having watched the Dark World 48 hours ago,
Okay.
less. Having just watched that one, I can see, okay, so they're laying the seeds for Loki to not be evil. So,
Right. Yeah, it was a lot of
no,
fun for Loki to get to experience himself on a grand scale, where he's like, "Oh my gosh, it is really annoying when you can never trust me ever. Like
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
I'm never going to do what I say I'm going to do," and it just drove him nuts. And I'm like, "Ha ha ha!
So,
Now you
so
know."
Now I think we should get to the central question of Loki, the series. The
Yeah.
absolute number one, the thing that we all must go deep within ourselves and within our psyches and consider. Would you date yourself?
Nope.
that was going to be the question. I watched this with 15-year-old daughter of mine, and she said, "That is so creepy." That was her response. It's like, he fell in love with himself. That is wrong on so many levels. I'm like,
Yeah,
not
I
in
ran
multiverse
myself-
world. It's not.
I ran myself through one of those photo filters where it showed what I would look like as a man. I am not attractive. Would
Right,
not be
right.
I
dating
hate to
that
tell
guy.
you this, but nobody going from female to male looks attractive usually. It's
Okay,
usually
now we're hitting some hot button political topics, Ryan. You take that back. No, I know what you mean. Ryan, would you date yourself?
I probably wouldn't be a good candidate to date myself, but learning to care for yourself, learning like the undertext, the subtext of this arc. Tom Hiddleston even jokingly threw it out in an interview before this all came out, and everyone they played it back and went, he was telling us the whole time what the storyline was. He's like, well, first you need to learn to love yourself. And so I'm like, okay, with this storyline, coming to grips and learning to love a very capable version of yourself, learning to see the best in yourself. Like, I'm looking at it through that lens here. I like all that. When it gets romantic, that's where it gets a little awkward for me. I'm like, I'm okay with it because they are different people. They are literally
Yeah, they're
different universes. Things.
Right.
But if it's your core personality, like dating myself on the core personality thing, God, that's probably the most needy pairing I've ever heard of.
So I loved that development in the story. I just thought it was so much fun, and yeah, it just makes you go, wait a minute, would I date myself? But in the show, in the context of the show, like when again, spoilers, blah blah blah, they get to the end of the world, or the place at the end of time.
End of time.
Yeah.
Where there's the smoke monster trying, from Lost is
Right.
eating everybody.
Exactly. It's all ABC.
And he meets dozens of other versions of Loki, and one of them is one that is just like him, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of them are very different. There's boy Loki, there's classic Loki, there's alligator Loki. There's weird stuff going on.
By the way, I would
Anyway,
keep alligator
let
me as a pet.
Let me finish. So we get to the version of himself that's very, very close to the one that we know. And, obviously that does not go well. They butt heads. But with, what's her name? Female
Sylvie.
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 Girl
Yeah.
Loki.
Sylvie.
Doesn't matter.
Her
With
real name is
Sylvie,
Sophie.
she, first of all, she is the female version, so that's already very different from how he was born. And then she went through wildly different experiences, ripped out of her home and on the run her whole life. She has her own issues that are very different from regular Loki's.
She has different powers.
And
I mean, it's-
like Ryan said, no, they exist in the same place on their separate timelines, but these are separate beings. It didn't creep me out in the way that I think it creeped out a lot of people, but maybe that's just because I'm a narcissist. Ryan, respond.
Wait, does that mean you would date yourself?
Myself, like literally
You.
myself. If I was cloned, no, I would burn that guy at the stake.
Okay.
would you date girl you? Beard and all?
She would be very hot. Yeah.
Yeah, she would.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a fun storyline. Anyway, Ryan, yeah, am I just too narcissistic to find it creepy?
No, not necessarily a narcissistic thing, but I guess I should say that if you're narcissistic on that, then I guess I am too, because just like I'm okay with it. I don't really think it's a great pairing, but I'm okay with it.
I actually liked it. I thought it was sweet. I thought
no, the casting was fantastic. The two of them together.
She's
Sophie
awesome.
DiMartino is fantastic.
That's what. Yeah,
no,
that's
they
what
were
you mixed
genius
up her
together.
name. Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
her name
that's
on the show?
Sylvie.
Oh, what's her name in real life?
Sophie DiMartino.
Okay.
Yeah. No, she was fantastic. Sorry, go on.
I don't know where I was going.
Okay, that's fine. No, that was an inspired casting choice. And this is one of the things that Marvel has been so good at for so many years. You take somebody who isn't a literal newcomer. You know, it's not who played Rey in Star Wars.
Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley.
Yeah, it's not Daisy Ridley. You're not plucking somebody out of almost literal obscurity. But they take somebody who has kind of proven their chops, but nobody knows who they are. And you put him in a role. Tom Hiddleston is a great example of this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? When he got cast as Loki, it was hardly his first gig, but it was definitely the first gig where the world was going to know who he was, right? So you're not casting Tom Cruise. You cast Tom Hiddleston. And she is another great example of that, where she's worked, she's had projects, and she has fans. I'm sure, some people knew who she was, but the world at large had no idea. And she killed it.
Yeah.
I thought once she was on the show, the show really took off for me.
Oh, yeah, that's probably where I started caring about it more.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I was impressed with Ryan calling that it was going to be girl Loki, though.
Yeah.
Before,
did
sight
you?
unseen.
Yeah.
That was good job by you.
Before, I think it's episode
It's episode 2 that we find out.
2 or 3, whatever it is, that they finally reveal it. When they showed the variant in the very first episode at the end in a hood and everything, I'm like, oh, it's a girl. Because there's absolutely no reason for you to hide that it's Tom Hiddleston if it's supposed to be just him.
yeah.
So it's a different actor, and you're trying to go for a big reveal. It's going to be female Loki. I was like, I didn't feel like it was really that far out in left field to spot it. But yes, I did call it.
Well, and she isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Like, she didn't die at the end, so she's gonna be
she's
coming in
No,
and out.
they got to fight all of the Kang the Conquerors that are coming now,
And we do have season 2.
including the one that they killed.
Oh, yeah, season 2.
So they're
So,
gonna.
we didn't really get to Black Widow.
We
But
did.
do
We need to tell people, do you think, would you recommend people watch Black Widow and then the end scene of Black Widow before Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Or would you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier first to get the context of it?
It was supposed.
This is who this character is. Because Black Widow was supposed to come out last year.
Kevin Feige actually said that the only thing that COVID ruined in the timeline-wise in the stories was that there was a reveal in Black Widow that would have then been an Easter egg or an Easter egg in that would have been then in Falcon and Winter Soldier. And we now know that is
That's the Easter egg.
the Countess.
end credit scene.
The
And honestly, it doesn't
And
really
I
matter
didn't,
which.
since I didn't finish Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I had no idea.
It
who that
doesn't
was.
matter which direction you see it in. Black Widow is set before Falcon and the Winter Soldier anyway, so it takes a little bit of creative. Oh yeah, this goes here and this goes here, but it doesn't.
but
Yeah, somebody did ask me if Black Widow spoils anything. She's like, I'm not caught up on the last couple of Marvel movies. And I was like, it does spoil Endgame if you watch the end credits. But otherwise, you're good to go.
But I will say, if you want to know about timing of watching these series, WandaVision and Loki occur at the exact same time.
Yes.
Right.
Literally, I think it's minute 27 and 30 seconds in both of those series, the end episodes of each one.
Yes.
That's when Wanda becomes Scarlet Witch at 27:30, and that's the moment that
Kang says,
or he who is left behind,
Yeah, he who
turns
remains.
around and says, I don't know past this point. Because she's the one who creates the Hex event
Right.
that separates, and
The
he
Nexus,
doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah, the Nexus event. That's what it is.
So cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought
I
that
knew
was
about
pretty
that.
clever, and I'm sure that was planned. Did you see the one about the Countess and the TV? And never mind, I don't want to even get into this. It's so
we're out of
ridiculous.
time.
Sounds
We're
like the
out.
beginning of a terrible
Oh,
joke.
no, it's not a joke. It's a fan theory, but it's ridiculous.
Okay.
Not even worth talking about.
Yeah, Black Widow. I don't know if there's much to get into on Black Widow. Florence
introduces Yelena.
Pugh is a revelation. David Harbour is fantastic.
Yep.
In one of the blandest Marvel movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Theoretically, they say that it introduces the very first mutant in the MCU because that guy he arm wrestles in the prison, but
Okay.
whatever.
I think this movie is, unfortunately, if this movie was affected by COVID and more than just date, we would be having different conversations about it. if it had come out when it was supposed to come out.
Yeah. It was a charming little ode to Scarlett, or to Black Widow.
I'm
to
glad
Natasha.
I'm glad she got a movie.
That was-
Scarlett Johansson is obviously very talented, and she's also beautiful to the point of distraction. It's kind of difficult to focus on the movie sometimes, if I'm being honest.
But that's all it is. It's a nice little, let's pour one out for our homies, type thing.
Speaking of pouring one out, can we pour one out for the wasted casting of Olga Kurylenko?
Oh, jeez.
She was under the mask.
She was Taskmaster, and
sure.
Yeah.
I love her. She's done some stinkers, but she's done some really, really good projects. She's fantastically talented, and I was very disappointed that did she even have any lines?
No,
I don't think so.
No, she was basically a robot.
She's not gone though.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever really gone.
She could show up
But not
again
even
at some point.
Not even like she was.
No, she gets taken with the other liberated Black Widows.
Does she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Well, so I hope she's back. I really hope she's back, and I hope that she gets more to do later, because
Anything to do would be nice. I mean,
Anything is possible in the multiverse of madness.
no one's ever really gone. Okay.
Nerd.
So, shall we call it there? Ryan, you feeling okay? You feeling satisfied? You look like you look like you want to throw something, and I'm not sure why.
No, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how I enjoyed these. I feel like they're good, but I don't know. I'm trying to really figure out what I feel, because I feel like there's a lot of good to be talked about with all these series, and
I complain too much.
no, we do pick them apart, and there are legitimate criticisms to be had, but I don't know. I've especially lately, I've come into more of the idea of trying to celebrate the good things that were done, like Black Widow, for example. While pretty predictable, pretty straightforward things like that, you know what? They shot that movie in fantastic way to showcase how to do a female superhero without male gaze through the lens.
Most of the time. There were a couple of shots in that movie where I was like,
Well, but
seriously,
it
guys?
didn't end up in her getting married, because so many
There's
stories about women are like, no, there has to be a romance or women won't come to see it. No. There didn't have to be one.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was kind of
I kind of love those movies where the woman doesn't end up with like a boyfriend at the end. Like, yeah, that's not her whole story.
Yeah. Okay.
That was never her story.
It's a movie that was done. It showcased another way to do this type of film, and I think it's funny. This is a totally random point. The weekend after it came out, everyone was like, "This movie is doing the best at the box office. Anything post-COVID, it made like 80 million here and 60 million on streaming. It's doing great." And then it took a huge dive the following week, dropped to 23 million.
Yeah, because it's no good.
And that's immediately the response is that, "Oh, the movie's garbage." And I'm like,
what?
Or we saw it.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And there
We
are a lot
saw
of
it.
things coming out this week.
I don't know. No, because how many Marvel movies had, what was it, a 68% drop week over week, from week 1 to week 2?
Yeah.
Like, that is not normal for Marvel. This was a very poorly performing Marvel movie. And so you can make all the arguments about, whatever
But
you were
no
gonna say.
Marvel movie has ever been available on streaming for your purchase.
Okay,
Oh, that's true. Because
Streaming-
you just pay for it once and then you can watch as many times as you want.
Streaming
go back
had
and watch
part
Black
of what
Widow
to do
right
with
now.
it, but
It made 60 million streaming
Yeah.
and 80 million in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
We're still working on getting back to movie theaters, and I'm sorry, that's going to affect the drop off. Maybe not 63% or whatever it is, but the fact is that I can see it once, pay for it once at home, and watch it as many times as I want. It kills the revenue of those people coming back week 2, week 3. It kills a lot of that. Like, that's going to be a thing.
I think it was more that people went and saw it once and didn't need to go back and see it again. I think that
I'm not
streaming
gonna
is
say
a
it's
large.
I'm not going to say it's a
large
masterpiece
contributor.
that everyone wanted to rush back to, but I don't think it's because it's a garbage movie that people like.
Nobody
No,
said it
but-
was a garbage movie. It's just
You
boring.
literally
I thought you
said
literally
it was
said
a
that.
bad
Kinda implied
movie
it.
just a minute ago.
It's boring. It's bland. It's
Okay.
boring.
It's the kind of movie that I was like, I must see this on the giant screen. I saw it once, and now I can wait until it's free on my Disney Plus. I don't need to pay the $30 for it. It'll be there eventually, and I can wait that long.
Yeah, well, the
So.
streaming discussion is one for another day. So anyway, gosh, I said we were out of time 10 minutes ago. We're definitely out of time now. So
Lots of Marvel stuff coming up later.
yeah, there's more stuff coming up. Boy, all right. What a weird discussion we just had. I hope people enjoyed it. Thank you for listening, and if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Go subscribe, etc. Like, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff.
All the things.
And go visit us on Patreon, visit us at thelegendarium.com, and chat with us on Discord. So, with that, we'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
Such a poser. You can cut that out.